Ooh. You know, I'm tempted to ask, how's it going? But it is currently 6 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. I'm 21. I'm not waking up right now. I'm trying to reset my sleep schedule because I kind of hate waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so this is my attempt to stay up, and I got bored. So what we're gonna do is hopefully a new series here. I'm gonna call it Rave Reviews. It comes from, I was looking on Amazon one day. Amazon can be one of the funniest places for reviews of random products, and not necessarily just troll posts. I was going through, I'm gonna say it, I was looking at Crocs house shoes. I said it, they look kind of comfortable, they look kind of tight though. I was looking through some of these reviews. The boomer ass answers fucking got to me. So we're just gonna take a peek at some funny Amazon reviews, try to find some niche products to see what we can get in terms of gold. We're gonna start out with a classic here, just to get a good start, and then hopefully get an avalanche behind it. Not unlike the bowels of some of these people that we're about to read. This is the sugar-free gummy bears original Haribo post. This is where I first found funny Amazon reviews, probably from high school. So let's check these out. Mickey gives it a 5-star. She says, perhaps maybe not the best to eat these all at once. These are yummy, soft, and extremely delicious. You get a lot for the money and it's all well worth it. Perhaps best not to eat too many at one time, however. It's all up to the individual to decide when enough is enough. Also, during my taste test, I'm not sure what my bowels shot out of me, but somehow I cannot do arithmetic again. Thanks, Sarah. You think if you had a traumatic experience just so bad, you just say, wow, I am so good at math now. I am a goddamn engineer. Jay Morford says, disappointed, not a joke. A real review. Did not work as expected. This review is in no way a joke. I have to use gummy vitamins due to a sugary... Jesus Christ, I am illiterate. I used to have gummy vitamins due to a surgery I had in the past. I had them in my medicine cabinet in my room, and the two kids got into them and ate about 400 of them in one sitting, and again, I'm not joking. I bought these and put them in the vitamin bottles, gone and no diarrhea. Then I left the bag out, and they ate over 3 pounds in one sitting again, no diarrhea. It was meant to be a natural consequence, but the consequence was yet again on me, as these were a total waste of money. Were you trying to poison your kids, bro? Hold on, wait. So you had vitamins, and your kids ate the vitamins, you said, hey, fuck those kids, I'm gonna make them shit their brains out. So you bought sugar-free gummy bears in hopes that they would have an ass cannon, right? And you gave it a 1-star review because it didn't work. You may be a piece of shit. Like, just actually may be a piece of shit. Oh no, okay, I got, Jeffrey Lambert here. Hell holds no surprises for me anymore. And these are all new. These are written since I read them back in high school. So this is a cautionary tale, and unlike most other reviews on this product, this is a true story, and its authenticity can be qualified by a small news item that appeared in the Toronto Star's local news section during the month of April 2013. Much to my chagrin, illiterate. I would consider myself a prudent man, not given to bouts of outspokenness or craving attention, and certainly not one to rock the boat. On any given day, I could be found reading a crime novel on the park bench in the middle of the city, soaking in the opulence of nature while nibbling on my tuna fish sandwich and fending off the voracious gulls and squirrels that threaten to spoil my response. You definitely aren't going for attention. You are 100% right. This is me, law-abiding and introspective, which is why it became a shock to me to find myself incarcerated because of the devil's confectionery, Satan's sweet meat, Lucifer's lozenges, the horror known as Haribo sugar-free gummy bears. I'll set the scene. Well, I'll set the scene for you. Let's go.
It was late winter and early spring in Toronto, as the city had just been digging itself out of a late-season snowstorm. I was heading to Pearson International Airport for a red-eye flight to Amsterdam in order to give the new Dutch arm of our company some training on the new software that had been installed. I'd just finished packing and checked the time, and I found I was running late. My flight was at 7:10 p.m., and it was now almost 5 o'clock. Cursing softly, I ran out the car, threw my bags in the trunk, hitting the gas a little harder than usual in my haste to make it to the long-term parking lot.
This is fucking quality. Someone will hire me as the goddamn voice actor.
Luckily, the traffic was light on the 401, and I made it to the airport in record time. I had not eaten since lunch, and I was feeling a bit hungry, my stomach rumbling loudly in protestation.
Is that a word? Fuck it, my computer's locked.
Which caused me to look at the other travelers rushing past me in a busy terminal. I briskly checked my watch and decided that I had enough time to grab a quick snack before going through the baggage check and security.
Hold on, I gotta adjust my thing. No, shit. Okay, sure.
And I would get something more substantial once I checked through the security. I spotted a vending machine nestled in the relatively low traffic corner of the terminal, and I rushed over, already pulling out my credit card and mentally assessing what I had been craving for interacting with the machine.
That's definitely how it was written.
My eyes scanned the colorful array of confection quickly, coming to rest on the tantalizing rainbow-colored bag of gummy bears with a simple white and red logo. Haribo. Emblazoned across the back in what appeared to be a slightly tweaked Helvetica rounded font.
Because that's important. Because that is important to your fucking story. My man, my logo is in Helvetica. I doubt Haribo is in Helvetica. I highly doubt it. I was hungry. When you're hungry, you should eat food. Food is defined as a nutritious substance. My guy, you're really pulling out the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. We know what food is. Well, more or less, we know what food is. Haribo sugar-free gummy bears are not food. They aren't even from this planet. I imagine their origins are conceived in a boardroom in hell, the top team of creative pain administrators with a senior level of demons rubbing their hands together in a ghoulish delight as hell's chief chemist slowly lifts the veil on their new creation.
The point here being, I made a very, very, very poor choice. I pushed the button and the vending machine ejected a brightly colored bag in my waiting hands. They weren't overly sweet as to become cloying, and of course, each candy came in a visage, or rather the happily docile bear, reminiscent of a picture one mind's eye holds as all anthropomorphic bears, from Yogi to Winnie. The way I figured it, I was taking a bit of a holiday from my life, so I can relax and fastidiously regimented daily schedule, a little to allow for some frivolity. After all, I was going to be in Amsterdam in the morning with 16 hours to kill before I...
Oh my god, dude, you ate these before you got on a plane, dude. What? I'm just disappointed at this point, you know?
With 16 hours to kill before I had to be training the Dutch employees, I would see the area of the city from the bus as I went to the hotel, where I would eat at the hotel restaurant and drink sparkling water. So I'd better enjoy the gummy bears, my one extravagance to commemorate my break from the routine. I checked my watch again, frowned, absent-mindedly opened the bag of Haribo sugar-free gummy bears and began to munch on them as the line slowly advanced. To be fair, they tasted fine. If they tasted off or different, I most likely would have continued to shovel them into my mouth absent-mindedly while daydreaming about what I would order to eat from the room service at my hotel in Amsterdam.
His vice was gummy bears, sugar-free gummy bears at that. I think you have to try to get sugar-free gummy bears. I don't think that they just sell them. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't had gummy bears in forever.
As I gave the attendant my e-ticket, she weighed my bags and the first pains began in my stomach. I thought nothing of it at first, chalking it up to the fact that I needed something more substantial than the gummy worms.
But they're bears, you fucking...
At this point, I had my boarding pass printed and rubbing my stomach a little, I proceeded into the security. I briefly entertained the thought of trying to find a restroom before going through security, but at this point, my discomfort was manageable, and I didn't think it was going to get any worse, certainly not within the amount of time it would take to clear security. I joined the line and started to fish for my passport to present to the agent. While checking the tickets, I felt a thin sheen of sweat break out on my forehead and underarms, and my features flushed for a moment as a wave of heat washed over me. I didn't pay it much heed, as going through security always causes me great anxiety.
Who says I didn't pay it much heed? You are an English major and you're trying to make some sort of use out of your major. My man, I salute you, but at the same time, you're making this difficult for illiterate people like me.
It was only as I stood face to face with the agent and handed her my passport and ticket that I had a glimpse of agony that was about to begin. It felt like time rippled for a moment as my consciousness buckled. So intense was the pain that fired through my bowels. I grimaced spasmodically. Stars shot through my head briefly as my vision blurred and then snapped back into focus. The agent was staring at me in slight consternation and asked me if I was alright. Mortified that I had a lapse of decorum, not only in the public place, but at a security clearance at the airport. As I fumbled off my... Oh my god, dude, what if she actually had to, like, security search you? Like, she did them depth search, you know? She really went up in them guts to try to find something. She would have probably plunged out the worst experience, and so hot. Not like sexy hot. I mean, like, actually temperature hot. It was becoming increasingly more evident that this isn't just a stomachache. No, this is something much worse. As a child, I had a bout of diarrhea after a trip to Mexico with my family. You drank the water. And I remember feeling the nausea that swept through me before my child self had surrendered to the gas pains and parked myself on the toilet for hours, shitting until I felt like I didn't have any bones left. And that was how the feeling was now, with several key differences. The pain was worse. The sense of impeding bowel movement was so formidable that it gave me temporary amnesia. Took all of my willpower, all of it, to clench my butt cheeks together to prevent my sphincter from exploding.
This is possibly the grossest ASMR ever, and I'm so proud to be doing it.
A sudden shock of pain racked my body as I half wondered if I was going to give birth to the Tasmanian devil.
The crazy fever-induced image of said cartoon animal chasing Bugs Bunny through my The crazy fever-induced image of said cartoon animal chasing Bugs Bunny through the splashy volcanic shit kettle that was my stomach caused me to elicit a short, maniacal bark of laughter as I approached the metal detector. A wild and distinct look in my eyes, sweat now beginning to pour off of my... You did the wrong pour. As a fucking English major, you should be ashamed of yourself. Sweat now beginning to pour off of me like a long-distance runner in Kenya. My breathing became uneven as I entered the metal detector, and I realized with alarm that I had taken off my socks without even registering it. One of my shirt tails was untucked from the front. I held my breath, my eyes bulging dangerously from my head as the machine scanned me. Hold on, I gotta take...
I shakily moved forward towards the agent for a pat down. My stomach began to elicit sounds that can only be described as otherworldly. My jaw dropped in shock as what I can only describe as the sound of an agonizing, wailing alley cat in heat. In a persistent Doppler effect. The officer's eyes widened in alarm. She kept her eyes glued to my stomach as she thoroughly patted me down. I don't like where this is going. As she reached my shins, I felt my innards suddenly expand and plummet towards my... Oh no. And plummet towards my rectum. With cat-like reflexes, I squeezed my sphincter shut, but what seemed like nanoseconds to spare, and I knew that if I didn't get to a bathroom immediately, I would shit myself. With a Herculean effort of all the strength I could muster, I forced my butt cheeks together, knowing that one false move could open the floodgate. A disheveled, barefoot 40-year-old businessman, red-faced, bulgy-eyed, sweating profusely, shaking slightly, and walking without a bend in his knees,
and slowly dying there, one scourge at a time.
I turned to go and found myself staring at 3 armed agents who stopped me and asked if I would follow them. Why? What's the matter? I stammered, wincing slightly, as the act of speech seemed to strain the tenuous and extremely fragile truce that I had negotiated between my bowels and the tempest that raged within. I have to go to the bathroom right now.
Just follow us, please,
they said, leaving no room for argument.
Hi everyone, my camera died. I'm going back through this and editing it, and I saw I missed about half of the story, so I'm gonna go back and read it. The other travelers started clearing the security check, whispering amongst themselves and hurrying to pack up their belongings and get as far away from me as possible, no doubt assuming the airport had nabbed me for some sort of domestic terrorist. With each step I took towards the room that they ushered me into, I felt my legs would give way. I marveled at how strong the human could be. Maybe I would make it through this ordeal after all. The room they brought me into was an examination room. I pretty much stopped registering details of my environment as my consciousness closed off all but the absolutely necessary functions, breathing, the ability to walk. But I snapped back into reality when I heard the snap of rubber, the slow dawning of realization poked through my agony and my stoic resolve as I turned to face the agent, donning rubber gloves.
So we're gonna have to perform a cavity search on you.
His short, cropped, blonde hair was immaculate, and for a crazy moment I wondered if he was an actor. And this was all some sort of elaborate practical joke done to amuse some kids on YouTube. He must have been taking my tortured silence for resistance, because he looked at me sharply and said,
"Lower your pants and underwear, please."
Panic started to grip me. Panic started to grip me from its icy grasp, and the sudden adrenaline threatened to destroy my sphincter's bulwarks and rend my anus in two. I inhaled sharply, and with a pained gasp, I doubled up my efforts to clench my cheeks together. "Sir, please," I begged, deferring to this kid in an act of desperation. "I have to go to the bathroom. You can follow me into the stall if you need, but I've had some bad Harpo sugar-free gummy bears, and now I feel like it." But they had stopped listening and smirked at each other. 2 of the other agents, tall, dark-haired female with a shorter, fat, balding man.
"Sir, face the wall and put your hands on the desk and spread your cheeks."
The young agent stated in a lopsided grin on his face. But I began to protest. Then a fresh shock of pain forced me to stop and lean on the table for support as an ungodly howling rose from my stomach. something between the dying moans of a woolly mammoth and the sound of bubble wrap popping underwater. I exhaled shakily and my focus began to narrow as I rallied for the final battle. Shaking uncontrollably and sweat literally raining down the tabletop, I turned to face the wall and heard a meek, childlike voice pleading from somewhere in the room. Please. From somewhere within my mind, I recognized that sound had issued from me, although my consciousness had now begun to separate from my body as I held my breath and prayed to God for strength.
He probably has some heroin or something up there that opened up. Probably high as a kite. Look at him.
Spread your cheeks.
Please God, please God, please God, please God, please God. I whispered in a desperate, maniacal mantra, not even aware of my surroundings anymore. I felt like I was lost in an opium fog, and with half-snatched images and sounds filtering through to create a nonsensical version of reality. Another volley of pain tore through me, and I involuntarily leaned forward over the desk, my focus completely narrowed to a spot on the wall 2 feet in front of me, a curious imperfection in what seemed to be a perfect whitewashed stone wall. It took something as simple as a slight breeze to trigger Armageddon. That's all. No trumpets, no fanfare, no fire raining from the heavens, no dogs and cats living together in harmony, no finger on the button, no prophet to predict it, no nothing. As I stared at the rainbow bear smiling and dancing in front of me, my mouth agape, drooling, eyes glazed and bloodshot, face coated with a sheen of sweat, I heard the softest sound, an exhalation from the young agent behind me. At the same instant, the warm air of his breath feathered across my butt cheeks. Just a moment, maybe less. Maybe a split second, even a nanosecond, I felt the presence of God there within me in the room as the neurons began to misfire at a blinding rate. I stood on the brink with one foot hovering over the edge, and then without taking a step, I found myself plummeting. The sound of an extra-large plastic ketchup bottle being run over by a Mack truck. My sphincter released. The pressure of the blast pushed me hard into the desk, and the legs of the desk screeched and scraped across the floor. My body remained rigid from the moment, and I experienced a relief that can only be described as orgasmic in its purity. Tremors racked my body, and I must have looked like a fish out of water with an endless stream of shit firing out of my ass. Other sounds and sensations started to filter in now as my consciousness began to materialize all at once. The muffled scream of a dungeon filled with prisoners near death radiated from my stomach. The rushing sounds of liters of liquid trying to escape through an aperture too small to accommodate it. At the same time, the omnipresent sound of chunky liquid spattering across a hard surface with great force. The high-pitched screaming of a woman's voice calling out to God, and another voice sobbing uncontrollably saying,
Make it stop.
My own ecstatic, monotone wail. When my ordeal had run its course, I was left panting for breath, wobbly-legged, half crying, half laughing with relief. Barely lucid, feeling as if I had birthed an elephant. My colon felt like someone had poured chili sauce all over it, and then sent it to a colony of fire ants to eat it. Through the sobs, I heard the sound of dripping, like when the sprinklers are eventually turned off after an office fire, and after the thunderstorm, when the willow that overhangs the pond continues to rain down long after the sky has stopped. With great relief, I slowly pulled myself off the table, legs trembling, my stomach eliciting one last sound, a long, prolonged gasp bubbling that eerily resembled a big orgasm. Slowly, I turned my head to survey the devastation that, in that instant, if I had a pencil or some other sharp object, I would have possibly gouged my eye. I probably would have gouged my eyes out in revulsion. And that smell, the smell was enough to drive a man insane. It was the stench of rotting potatoes mixed with sulfur and ammonia. Ammonia cooked into a broth of chicken feces and left to age for 2 weeks in a yeasty stew at the bottom of a French outhouse. And half a whiff of this ghoulish brine, I immediately stopped breathing through my nose, but the taste was to remain in the back of my throat for months to come. So my camera died. It's pretty much the end of the story, though. He basically just talks about how he felt bad for the dude that was behind him because he looked like he was he looked like he went mudding. I don't know why my camera didn't record anything, but I had a lot of fun reading this. If you do too, that's great. We can definitely do more of them, preferably some that are less vulgar this time. I just thought it'd be a good way to kick off this little series that I want to do. Just about Amazon reviews that make me chuckle, and hopefully they made you chuckle too. If you liked it, you should definitely send it to someone who has a weak stomach, because it would be really fun to watch them scream and squirm. Hopefully you guys liked it. I had a lot of fun, and I will hope to see you guys again real soon. I'm gonna go take a mad shit.